So, a very warm welcome to all of you. Jai Hind, good afternoon. Welcome to the weekly current affairs class for Polity and Governance. I believe that all your preparation is going good. You've geared up for the upcoming prelims, and even if you are not appearing in this year's prelims, then also your preparation is going good for the next year. Alright, so before we get into the topics for today's class, let me just brief you for the topics that we are going to cover. आज जो तीन टॉपिक्स हम कवर करने वाले हैं pertaining to polity and governance. The first is the Ministry of Home Affairs, गृह मंत्रालय की जो वार्षिक रिपोर्ट आती है, that is the annual report which the Ministry of Home Affairs releases, and what are the observations that report makes concerning the Citizenship Amendment Act, right? Remember, there was huge ruckus when the Citizenship Act was amended back in 2019, and again the report touches upon that very sensitive topic. So that is the first topic that we are going to take up. The second topic pertains to the Swachh Bharat Mission Urban, and particularly a new recently released framework for garbage free cities, right? That is again an important part of your syllabus GS paper 2 when it comes to the government's interventions through various schemes and policies in the developmental phase, right? The last topic, the third topic for the day, is going to be related to the recently, the topic that was recently news concerning the Chief Election Commissioner's comments that they are contemplating postal ballots for the non-resident Indians, that is the NRIs. So that is the third topic. All right. So good afternoon all. Good afternoon. I hope we are good. We are connected and we are good to go. Hanji, Rohit, Yaman, Suraj, good afternoon everybody. चलिए ठीक है, तो फिर let's start with the first topic. The first topic for the day, that is Ministry of Home Affairs Annual Report. अब ये एक बहुत comprehensive report है, right? It contains multiple topics. It contains multiple such things which comes under the ambit of the Ministry of Home Affairs. This is one such thing, one chapter which has been dedicated in the annual report to the CAA, right? You can also go to the MHA's website. You can download the report for yourself and take a look at the points, right? All right. So what the report says, that the CAA or the Citizenship Amendment Act is a piece of legislation, एक ऐसा कानून है जो कुछ भी जो है देश में गलत करने की तरफ या कोई भी आप कह लो देश में एनवायरनमेंट को खराब करने की तरफ एक कदम नहीं है. रादर इट इज वेरी अमेलियोरेटिव, बहुत सौहार्दपूर्ण माहौल बनाए रखने में ये कानून जो है वो मदद करेगा. दैट इज व्हाट द गृह मंत्रालय और द मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ होम अफेयर्स इज सेइंग इन इट्स रिपोर्ट. लेट्स टेक अ लुक एट फर्स्ट some of the articles that were given in these newspapers, Express, Hindu, both carried. And इसके साथ साथ एक चीज और देखो कि 2 साल तकरीबन हो गए हैं. इट्स बिन 2 years. 2019 में ये अमेंडमेंट की गई थी सरकार के द्वारा सिटीजनशिप एक्ट में, है ना, जो नागरिकता कानून है ओरिजिनल 1955 का. लेकिन तकरीबन 2 साल होने को आ गए हैं. स्टिल द CAA रूल्स, जो ये सिटीजनशिप अमेंडमेंट एक्ट के रूल्स हैं, इनको अभी तक सरकार ने फ्रेम नहीं किया है. दिस इज वन सच आर्टिकल जो अभी अप्रैल में ही हिंदू ने कैरी किया था, राइट? तो दोनों को रिलेट करके देखो. इसके साथ ये चीज हमें देखने को मिल रही है कि जो ये रूल्स हैं विच आर स्टिल टू बी ड्राफ्टेड, एंड वंस दे आर ड्राफ्टेड ओनली देन द सिटीजनशिप अमेंडमेंट एक्ट कैन बी नोटिफाइड. इसको अल्टीमेटली लागू तभी करा जा सकता है व्हेन द rules for the act are drafted, right? Whereas the Supreme Court has time and again asked the central government that what is the cause or what is the reason behind this delay, and the government has been dilly-dallying over it, and it has always asked for an extension कि हमें और समय चाहिए, हमें और टाइम चाहिए, अभी we need more time to frame, to draft these rules, right? So that is another thing that is related to this particular act. All right, so before we move to the observations made by the report, the MHA report, let's first take into look that what exactly are the brief comments. तो देखो साफ साफ इन्होंने कहा that this law is compassionate and ameliorative. मतलब कहने का ये है that the Ministry of Home Affairs says that किसी भी नागरिक को चिंता करने की कोई भी जरूरत नहीं है. Any Indian citizen will not be harmed by this act whenever it comes into force, and it is very compassionate towards everybody, right? But interestingly, at the same time, they have not notified it, they have not brought it into implementation, because still you have not the rules for the Citizenship Amendment Act that have been drafted. Right. So let's briefly take a look at what is the Citizenship Amendment Act before we further delve into what are the findings of the report. Right. Good afternoon, Fulyal Singh. Good afternoon, Revati. Okay, you are from Kerala. All right. Yes, certainly I can really take it in English. Revati, be rest assured, I'll try to be bilingual as far as possible. Right. So as to cater to the needs of the both the English and the Hindi audience. All right. Great. So look, this basically is an act that was, brought in 2019 and particularly for amending the Citizenship Act of 1955. The original act, the original law which deals with the matters relating to citizenship, that is from the year 1955 when the Parliament had enacted this Citizenship Act. Right. Please remember, if you have, even taken a look at your polity component, then you must have read the Citizenship chapter. And that chapter tells you that the Constitution of India does not elaborate upon or does not deal with the question of citizenship after the independence. It just deals with the provisions pertaining to citizenship before attaining independence. After that, it simply says, after 1950, that is the date of the commencement of the Constitution or the year of the commencement of the Constitution, that it will be the responsibility of the Parliament of India, that is the Bharat ki jo Sansad hai, that it will be the Parliament of India that is going to be the competent authority, the competent body to bring in a legislation, to bring in a law dealing with the citizenship. Right. So that is why the Parliament got the power and it enacted the act, or it brought the law. कानून लेके आए ये लोग 1955 में, that is the Act of 1955, the Citizenship Act, which is the original act, we can say, which deals with the matters pertaining to how citizenship will be granted to the people. Right. And now this is basically the law that has been amended through this Citizenship Amendment Act of 2019. Right. What is the major thing? What is the main amendment that the act has, or the amendment has introduced in this act? That these 6 religious minorities, that is Hindus, Sikhs, Buddhists, Jains, Parsis and Christians, that is the 6 religious minorities from the neighboring countries where Muslims happen to be in majority, that is these Muslim majority countries neighboring India, that is Afghanistan, Bangladesh and Pakistan. From these 3 countries, if anybody belongs to these religious minorities and they have entered India on or before 31st of December 2014 because of religious persecution or the fear of religious persecution, कहने का मतलब ये है हिंदी वालों के लिए, सिंपली अगर बोलूं मैं, कि अगर इनको धर्म के आधार पे प्रताड़ित किया जा रहा था इन तीनों में से किसी भी एक देश में, और ये इन 6 में से किसी भी एक धर्म से वास्ता रखते हैं, then they will be granted, or you can say the amendments sought, this particular amendment sought to ease out the provisions. ऐसा नहीं है कि इनके लिए सिंपली बोल दिया कि आप आ जाओ और आपको सिटीजनशिप दे दी जाएगी. नो, इनके लिए कुछ प्रोविजंस को रिलैक्स किया गया. That is what the act, that is what the amendment sought to do. Right. Now, moving forward, moving ahead, when we talk about further, see, the point is that under the Citizenship Act 1955, the original piece of legislation, the original law, it talks about certain types of, or certain kinds of methods through which an individual, a foreigner, can be granted Indian citizenship. It can be by birth, it can be by descent, it can be by naturalization, it can be by incorporation of territory. So, when we talk about the grant of or giving the citizenship by way of naturalization, that particular provision is being sought to be amended, or rather I can say that is the provision which has been amended through this 2019 amendment, whereas where it says that if a person wants to get Indian citizenship by way of naturalization, अगर आपको naturalization के through Indian citizenship लेनी है, then what the act said, the original act, कि आप पिछले 14 years में से, पिछले 14 सालों में से at least continuous basis पे 12 महीने के लिए इंडिया में रहे होने चाहिए, and out of these 14 years 11 years का कोई भी पीरियड इफ यू हैव स्टेड इन इंडिया, मतलब कि इस पूरे 14 इयर्स के पीरियड में से एट लीस्ट 11 years you must have stayed in India, and before you are making an application जब आप अपनी एप्लीकेशन फाइल कर रहे हो टू गेट इंडियन सिटीजनशिप बाय वे ऑफ नेचुरलाइजेशन, just before filing that application for obtaining Indian citizenship for a period of consecutive 12 months, or you can say for a period of consecutive 1 year, that is without a break, without any gap in between, for continuous period of those 12 months or 1 year, you must have stayed in India. Then only you can be granted Indian citizenship by way of naturalization. That is for any foreigner coming from any country except the enemy aliens, right? Enemy aliens are ones on through with which India has declared a war, right? So except the enemy aliens, all the other foreigners can get access or can get the Indian citizenship by way of this provision. Now coming to the amendment, what does the 2019 amendment say regarding this particular provision? This is the normal provision in the 1955 Act, right? Ame Patil, I'll just address your query. Please give me some time at the end of the session. I'm addressing Ame Patil's doubt here. Good afternoon, Ame. I'll address your doubt at the end of the session, right? So please be patient. Just concentrate on the topics that we're discussing right now. All right. So the 2019 amendment, it said it relaxed this period of 11 years and it reduced it to 6 years for the above mentioned categories which we have discussed, right? And that is where these 3 particular countries and these 6 religious minority communities, they have been given certain relaxations. It's not that they can just simply walk into India and they can get Indian citizenship at that very moment. No, they'll have to reside in the country for a period of 6 years, right? And that is just a relaxation that has been provided to them. The government says that since they have been, or they fear religious persecution, or they were religiously persecuted already in those countries, that is the rationale, or that is the logic which the government cites behind bringing in such a provision, right? Okay, so not going into further debate whether it's right or wrong, let's just move to what is the act saying regarding illegal migrants. Now you look, the another thing which the amendment has done, or the another relaxation, if I were to say, the amendment has done is concerning the definition of who is to be considered an illegal migrant. देखो, सबसे पहले तो please understand what do we mean by this term migrant or illegal migrant. See, if you want to visit any country, for example, you want to travel to the United States of America, you need valid travel documents. First of all, you need a passport from whichever country, or from whichever country you are a citizen of. That is the passport which you are going to carry. Along with that passport, the country which you intend to visit, that will provide you visa, right? That is the authorization to visit that country. So that is the valid travel documents. So if I as a person am not carrying these valid travel documents, then it means that I would be, or I will be, an illegal migrant, right? Apart from that, the second thing is that though you might be having valid travel documents, but your visa says that you can only stay in the United States of America till the end of 2022, and still in 2023 also you continue to stay in USA, then you are overstaying the permissible period, and hence you will be counted as an illegal migrant, right? So that is the, these are the basic 2 understandings of an illegal migrant. Now coming to the relevant laws in our Indian context, there are basically two acts, that is the Foreigners Act of 1946 and the Passport Entry into India Act of 1920, which defines, or which provides, that whosoever does not carry valid travel documents or is overstaying the permissible period, right, and are illegal migrants, they can either be jailed, they can be sent behind the prison, or they can be deported to their home country. उनको वापस जो है mandatorily they will be sent back, right? Now coming to the amendment, the 2019 Citizenship Amendment Act, this has exempted the 6 communities which we have just discussed from the provisions of both of these acts, right? मतलब ये हुआ कि जो ये 6 religious minority communities हैं, they have been given protection, they have been given immunity from the Foreigners Act and the Passports Act 1920, राइट तो मतलब कि उनको इलीगल माइग्रेंट कंसिडर नहीं किया जाएगा, दे विल बी वेरी मच कंसिडर्ड अ लीगल माइग्रेंट एंड दे विल नॉट बी आइदर जेल्ड और दे विल नॉट बी डिपोर्टेड, ना उनको जेल में भेजा जाएगा ना ही उनको डिपोर्ट किया जाएगा, राइट। सो दैट इज अनदर प्रोविजन ऑफ द अमेंडमेंट। अच्छा, अब इसके साथ देखो एक और जो चीज डिस्कस करनी बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है, बिकॉज इसके ऊपर भी काफी ज्यादा बार न्यूज में चर्चा होती रहती है, वी सी डिबेट्स ऑल्सो, दैट व्हाट अबाउट द नॉर्थ ईस्टर्न स्टेट्स। देखो सिंपल सी बात है, नॉर्थ ईस्टर्न स्टेट्स जो हैं, वी टॉक अबाउट द scheduled areas, right, which have been given certain kinds of protection under the constitution, कि हमारे पास बेसिकली शेड्यूल 5 और शेड्यूल 6 एरियाज हैं। यू मस्ट बी अवेयर ऑफ द शेड्यूल 5 एरियाज एंड द शेड्यूल 6 एरियाज। द शेड्यूल 6 एरियाज पर्टिकुलरली रिलेट टू द नॉर्थ ईस्ट स्टेट्स, ठीक है। क्यों? क्योंकि यहां पे ट्राइबल पॉपुलेशंस हैं एंड टू गिव प्रोटेक्शन, टू प्रिजर्व देयर कल्चर, टू कंजर्व देम, दीज northeastern states are given certain kinds of protections under the schedule 6 of the constitution, right? Now the thing which is said is that the Citizenship Amendment Act of 2019, it is trying to somehow dilute, or you can say do away with, that is abrogate or delete these protections to the tribals or the northeastern states under the schedule 6 of the constitution. However, what the Ministry of Home Affairs has said and what the provisions of the act say, that this is not the case. Why do they say that this is not the case? Because they say that the act is not going to be applicable to the schedule 6 areas, and hence all these apprehensions are misplaced, right? So exactly talking about these things, what does the exact thing is that you have the states of Assam, Meghalaya, Tripura and Mizoram, which are protected under the schedule 6 to the constitution. The act, the Citizenship Amendment Act, says that it is not going to be applicable to these tribal areas of these states, right? So the law precisely makes it very clear that it is not going to do any kind of harm, or it is not going to impinge upon the protections that the schedule 6 provides to the northeastern states. Apart from that, it also says that it will not be applicable to the areas which fall under the inner line permit or the inner limit as defined by the Bengal Eastern Frontier Regulation of 1873, the regulation which the British had came up with, but still which is existing. And this makes almost entire Arunachal, Mizoram, Nagaland out of the ambit of, or out of the scope of the Citizenship Amendment Act. इसका मतलब सिंपली ये हुआ हिंदी में, अगर इफ यू अलाउ मी टू से इन हिंदी, कि जो ये सारे एरियाज हैं, जो सारे ये राज्य हैं, अरुणाचल हो गया, मिजोरम हो गया, नागालैंड हो गया, इनका काफी बड़ा हिस्सा जो है, जो इनर परमिट के अंदर आता है, वो उसके ऊपर सिटीजनशिप अमेंडमेंट एक्ट जो है वो लागू ही नहीं होगा, ना ही जो शेड्यूल 6 एरियाज हैं वहां पे ये लागू होगा। तो जो नॉर्थ ईस्टर्न स्टेट्स को लेके कंसर्न उठाया जाता है, दैट ऑल्सो टू अ वेरी लार्ज एक्सटेंट आई वुड से इज मिसप्लेस्ड, right? Because the act itself makes it amply clear that it is not applicable either to the schedule 6 areas or the areas which are under the inner limit, right? So that is where the law stands. All right, now coming to the next, what does the Ministry of Home Affairs annual report say? Certainly Lakshmi, I'll send the PDF after the class, no worries regarding that. Okay, Hanji, Chandan says 7 sister. Yes, certainly the 7 sisters are the complete, northeastern states, but we are talking specifically about some of the states which are under schedule 6. शेड्यूल 6 में पूरा का पूरा नॉर्थ ईस्ट नहीं आता, 4 स्टेट्स आते हैं जो हमने भी बात करी है, ठीक है? तो उनको याद रखना भी आपकी जिम्मेदारी है। क्यों? बिकॉज देयर कैन बी अ क्वेश्चन इन दी prelims also. There have been questions in earlier prelims examinations also. All right. So now coming to the notings in the annual report by the Home Affairs Ministry. So the first thing which we have already discussed, that it says the law is very compassionate and ameliorative. It does not in any way deprive any Indian citizen of citizenship. कि देखो पहली बात तो जो सरकार कह रही है कि आप इस चीज को क्यों ध्यान में नहीं रखते, दैट दिस इज कंसर्निंग द फॉरेनर्स, this is concerning the migrants who either will be treated as legal migrants or illegal migrants. This is not concerning the ones who are already living in this country, who are already the citizens of this country. That is the first thing which the report by the MHA says. Second, it says that it is a very limited and narrowly tailored legislation. मतलब क्या है कि it is very pinpointed, it is very specific, and it talks about the communities with very much clarity, along with a clear cut-off date for those specific communities from the specific countries who are being, provided these relaxations under the CAA. So what makes you, or what are the grounds for the apprehensions, right? That is what the MHA report says. Okay, I am not saying this. This is what the Ministry of Home Affairs annual report has said. Apart from that, it says that you need not worry, because it will not take anybody's citizenship. The ones who are already Indians will remain to, they'll continue to be Indian. Apart from that, it also says कि देखो जो ये 6 communities हैं from these 3 nations and with a clear cut off date, apart from them जो बाकी बचे हुए जितने भी countries हैं and all the other communities, including the, including all the religions, including all the religious communities, whether they are in majority or in minority, they still have the option to acquire Indian citizenship by way of naturalization. Because remember, the 1955 Act, this piece of law is still there. It has not been repealed. That provision which says कि अगर आप पिछले 14 साल में से 11 साल इंडिया में आपने स्टे किया है, and in that 14 years before you are making your application for citizenship by way of naturalization, you have stayed in India for consecutive 12 months, then you will be granted, or you can be granted citizenship, right? So that provision still stays. That is still a part of the statute book. So that way also you can get the citizenship. Who is denying you, access to, or who is denying you the citizenship by way of naturalization? ठीक है, तो इसका मतलब ये है कि लीगल माइग्रेंट्स फ्रॉम एनी रिलीजन, फ्रॉम एनी कंट्री इन द वर्ल्ड, दे स्टिल हैव द ऑप्शन टू गेट और ऑब्टेन इंडियन सिटीजनशिप इफ दे फुलफिल द एलिजिबिलिटी कंडीशंस. ठीक है, जो एग्जिस्टिंग एलिजिबिलिटी कंडीशंस हैं अंडर द 1955 एक्ट, राइट? सो आई बिलीव दिस इज क्लियर. द एमएचए रिपोर्ट इज क्लियर. हाँ जी, फटाफट एक थम्स अप दे दो यार अगर ये समझ में आ गया है तो. आई होप ये समझ में आ गया. देखो एमएचए की ये हर साल की रिपोर्ट बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट होती है. क्यों? क्योंकि इसमें कई सारे आपके जो सिलेबस के पार्ट्स हैं वो कवर होते हैं. ठीक है, दिस इज फॉर एवरीबडी. जो इस साल दे रहे हैं पेपर और जो अगले साल दे रहे हैं पेपर, उनके लिए भी वैलिड है ये बात कि आपका जो आपका प्रीलिम्स और मेंस का एग्जाम है, स्पेशली द मेंस एग्जामिनेशन, उसके हिसाब से इस रिपोर्ट में से काफी सारा डेटा, काफी सारी एनालिसिस वो निकल के आती है, राइट? फुलियाल सिंह जी, आप बिल्कुल भी टेंशन ना लो. आपको इस वीडियो के डिस्क्रिप्शन बॉक्स में टेलीग्राम चैनल का लिंक मिल जाएगा, वहां पे पीडीएफ आपको मिल जाएगी, राइट? चलिए, ग्रेट. सो नाउ मूविंग टू द नेक्स्ट टॉपिक फॉर द डे. यस, हाँ जी. सो दिस इज द स्वच्छ भारत मिशन अर्बन 2.0. अब ये न्यूज में क्यों था? व्हाई वाज दिस इन न्यूज? Because the government, recently has released the behavior change communication framework for garbage free cities. ठीक है, so let's quickly discuss SBM Urban. What are the different provisions which the government has released now? So that is the Swachh Bharat Mission Urban 2.0, and it has launched the National Behavior Change Communication Framework for Garbage Free Cities. देखो सरकार जब से ये एनडीए गवर्नमेंट आई है, इट हैज बीन गिवन, दे हैव गिवन रियली गुड फोकस ऑन मेकिंग द सिटीज क्लीन और मेकिंग द urban areas open defecation free, not just the urban but of course the rural areas also. But here we are talking about the urban areas, right? Rushi, I'll come to your doubt, just give me a moment. Apart from that, what now has been done is that to strengthen the ongoing urban, Swachh Bharat mission, they have launched this initiative for garbage free cities. That is the Jan Andolan, you can say, or you can say the people's campaign, right? And this falls under the Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs, because ministries के regarding there are questions which UPSC asks, ठीक है, कि which program is conducted by which particular ministry. So be sure that you know that the ministry as well. Now coming to the recently released framework, that is what exactly is this framework. So on a very basic note, ये basically क्या है, it's a blueprint या कह लो एक road map है, किस चीज के लिए, एक guiding document है, किस चीज के लिए, cities के लिए और urban areas के लिए, जो भी urban areas states में fall करते हैं, so as to upscale or to conduct large scale multimedia campaigns along with intensive and focused interpersonal communication campaigns. What exactly this means? इसका मतलब ये है कि किस तरीके से हम जो भी इनिशिएटिव्स कंडक्ट कर रहे हैं अंडर दी स्वच्छ भारत मिशन, उसको कैसे और स्प्रेड किया जाए एंड उसको कैसे और इंक्रीज किया जाए. दैट इज व्हाट द गवर्नमेंट इज वांटिंग टू डू थ्रू दिस कम्युनिकेशन फ्रेमवर्क. क्योंकि देखो नाम से पता चल रहा है, व्हाट इज द नेम से, द कम्युनिकेशन फ्रेमवर्क, राइट. Then it certainly wants to intensify the message around key focus areas, के जो भी SBM के key focus areas हैं, जैसे कि सोर्स पे सेग्रीगेट करना, जो भी आपका वेट या ड्राई गार्बेज है उसको एक साथ नहीं बल्कि उसको अलग अलग करके सेग्रीगेट करके उसको डंप करना. जैसे आपने देखा होगा, यू मस्ट हैव सीन द ब्लू कलर्ड एंड द ग्रीन कलर्ड डस्टबिन्स. देखे हैं सब लोगों ने? हाँ जी. Have you seen those dustbins which are marked in green or they are marked in blue so as to segregate the dry and the wet waste? ठीक है, कि उसके थ्रू करने की कोशिश हो रही है कि सोर्स पे ही सेग्रीगेट कर दिया जाए डिफरेंट टाइप्स ऑफ वेस्ट्स को. यस, एग्जैक्टली, राइट. देन द कलेक्शन, ट्रांसपोर्टेशन, प्रोसेसिंग ऑफ वेस्ट, प्लास्टिक वेस्ट मैनेजमेंट एंड द रिमीडिएशन ऑफ लेगेसी डंप साइट्स, राइट. देखो ये एक बड़ा चैलेंज है अर्बन गवर्नेंस के लिए पर्टिकुलरली. क्यों? क्योंकि आपने देखा होगा, whenever if you have visited Delhi, you must have witnessed that कूड़े का पहाड़, that infamous mountain of that garbage which is there, और at times जिसमें आग भी लग जाती है and it gives you really toxic gases. So that is where in the process of urban governance this is very important that we take care of such things, right. Then it also has the Swachhta Ki Jyot, which aims to share what are the experiences and to communicate the best practices of all the people who are enrolled in these campaigns. देखो सिर्फ इतना ही मकसद नहीं होता किसी भी प्रोग्राम या किसी भी पॉलिसी का कि उसको इम्प्लीमेंट करके सिर्फ जो है छोड़ दिया जाए. जो भी लोग उसकी इम्प्लीमेंटेशन में जुड़े हुए हैं, all the people who are roped into the implementation, they can share what are their best communications practices, they can share their field experiences. Why? Because that is going to lead to further improvement in the implementation and also in making some amendments in the program. कि अगर आपके पास feedback है, आपके पास suggestions हैं, you have the inputs, then you can fine tune the program even further. You can make the improvements in the execution also, right? And that is how you can improve upon the policy, right? So that is another thing which the framework here is wanting to achieve. Apart from that, what has been the significance of this initiative? कि अभी तक अगर हम बात करें तो as per the data by the government, the data by the Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs, what exactly has been the significance is कि देखो आज से पहले या कह लो कोविड से पहले especially we were not very much inclined towards hygiene and cleanliness measures. But now this, since the tagline has been, or the whole program has been envisaged by the government, it is seen as a kind of social revolution. ठीक है? क्यों social revolution? Because people have come behind, they have, the ones who were not aware, they have been made aware. The ones who were aware, but they were not, following such practices, they have been made to follow such practices by the Swachh Bharat initiative and the कॉल विच वॉज गिवन कि जो ये पूरा एक तरीके से कह लो मुहिम चलाई गई कि क्लीनलीनेस, स्वच्छता इज अ वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट एस्पेक्ट ऑफ एवरीवन्स लाइफ, राइट. एंड दैट इज वेयर दिस क्लीन इंडिया कैंपेन हैज बीन सक्सेसफुल. It's also the world's largest behavior change program. So mind you, India is, topping, India is acing on that count. Then it also champions the principles of sustainable urbanization, circular economy, reuse, reduce, and recycle. Right, as Reddy sir had discussed in one of his environment current affairs class, that really you need to pull up for achieving the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. Your UN SDGs cannot be, achieved without this reuse, reduce and recycle. You need to do that. आपको ये करना पड़ेगा, उसके बिना आप यूनाइटेड नेशन के सस्टेनेबल डेवलपमेंट गोल्स SDGs को नहीं अचीव कर सकते. सस्टेनेबल डेवलपमेंट तो भूल जाओ, राइट? So that is the significance of this initiative. Apart from that, when we talk about the objectives of SBM Urban, then it says that completely eradicating open defecation. ठीक है, this is one objective. Then 100% scientific management of municipal solid waste. क्यों? क्योंकि इसके बिना जो है हम देखते हैं कि that dumps of huge, piles of garbage keeps mounting and affecting behavioral change through जन आंदोलन. देखो, ये एक बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट कंपोनेंट है. क्यों इंपॉर्टेंट कंपोनेंट है? ध्यान से सुनो, इसको मैं यहीं पे एक्सप्लेन कर रहा हूं. क्योंकि जब तक लोगों के व्यवहार में until unless there is a change in the behavior of the people, any program, any policy, any scheme of the government cannot be successful. ठीक है, I hope आप लोग इस चीज से agree करते हो. Yes or no? Please type a yes. Do you agree with this or not? That without bringing in a behavioral change in the people, we cannot, complete successfully, or we cannot make any policy of the government successful. We the people of India, जो हम आम नागरिक हैं देश के, हमारे बिहेवियर में भी चेंज की जरूरत है कि हम जो है चलते फिरते सड़क पे कुछ भी ना फेंक दें, या हम अगर सेग्रीगेट करके वेस्ट या जो भी कूड़ा कचड़ा है वो दे सकते हैं तो हमें भी देना चाहिए, राइट? एग्जैक्टली. Rushi, these classes will continue even after the prelims. Rushi Salgaonkar, these classes will continue even after the prelims. So don't worry about that. Chaliye, great. So these are certain objectives which are a part of the scheme. Now coming to the mission enablers. अब कुछ Ministry of Housing जो SBM चला रही है, उसमें कुछ mission enablers हैं, जैसे कि standardized protocols. There are certain standardized protocols for making the places open defecation free. Right, that is the Swachh Bharat Mission ODF campaigns. ठीक है, फिर इसके साथ साथ the second thing is स्वच्छ सर्वेक्षण, that is the surveys which are carried out, ताकि हमें पता चले कौन सा एरिया देश का कैसे परफॉर्म कर रहा है, and we can have a competitive monitoring framework. देखो इसका मतलब क्या है, यहाँ पे जो ये competitive monitoring framework है ना, this competitive monitoring framework, ये इसलिए है ताकि हम across different localities जो हैं हम कंपेयर कर सकें who is performing how, right? And then we can infuse a spirit of competitiveness कि look, that particular city has done really well and so can you take some inspiration and perform well on that count, right? So that is another mission enabler. Then the next thing is digital innovations, जैसे कि स्वच्छता ऐप जो है जिसको मोवा ने रिलीज किया था और जिसको भी अपग्रेड भी किया गया है, right? And apart from that, you also can look for a nearby, toilet. If you are in a public place and you want to really know the location, through this app also you can get the location, right? Then the next thing is behavioral change interventions such as communication campaigns and citizen outreach programs, right? So these are the 4 mission enablers. ठीक है, इन चीजों को याद रखना. देखो ये जो कीवर्ड्स है ना, जैसे कि स्टैंडर्डाइज प्रोटोकॉल्स, स्वच्छ सर्वेक्षण, डिजिटल इनोवेशंस, बिहेवियर चेंज इंटरवेंशंस, ये आप बड़े रेडिली अपने आंसर्स में भी यूज कर सकते हो. एंड इफ यू यूज दीज काइंड्स ऑफ थिंग्स इन योर आंसर्स, दे रियली एड क्रेडिट टू योर, और दे एड वेट टू योर आंसर्स, राइट? चलिए, सो मूविंग नेक्स्ट, that is how the performance has been with respect to the Swachh Bharat mission. So as per the website of the SBM, it says that providing 100% access to sanitation facilities in urban India, that is one achievement. Apart from that, 70 lakh households, community and public toilets have been built. And apart from that, through digital innovation, जो भी हमने mission enablers discuss किए, SBM toilets have been geo-tagged on Google Maps, right? So if anybody is he's roaming around in any area and he needs to spot a toilet, they can easily do so on a Google map, right? Most of us today use the Google apps, right? So it's easy that such technologies are used for making such kind of initiatives successful. Apart from that, India has been declared open defecation free in 2019 only, the urban part, because we are talking about SBM Urban, and 2016 in the initial phase only, the Swachhta app was launched, which has now been upgraded. It has been reinvented in the form of Swachhta app 2.0, right? ये देखो ऐसी चीजें क्यों इंपॉर्टेंट है, बिकॉज सिटीजन को अगर अपना कोई ग्रीवेंस एड्रेस करवाना है, अपना कोई ग्रीवेंस रजिस्टर करवाना है, then these can be good mediums to register the grievance, to tell the government, to tell the administration about that particular grievance, right? So that is on the count of the performance for Swachh Bharat mission. ठीक है जी, I believe यहां तक क्लियर हैं चीजें, right? चलिए, great. All right, so that brings us to the third topic for the day, that is NRIs and postal ballots. ठीक है, great. All right, so let's move to the third topic, that is NRIs and postal ballots. अब ये न्यूज में क्यों है, क्योंकि देखो recently the chief election commissioner, or you can say a delegation from the election commission of India, that was visiting South Africa and Mauritius, and there they met the election commission, their counterparts from these countries, and they also had a discussion with the Indian diaspora there. So what the Chief Election Commissioner Sushil Chandra has said, they have assured the NRI population, the Indian diaspora living in these countries, that we are contemplating something or a system through which the NRIs can also electronically cast their vote. देखो, NRI की सिंपली अगर डेफिनेशन की बात करी जाए तो कोई भी ऐसा व्यक्ति जो कि इंडियन सिटीजन है लेकिन फॉर अ पीरियड ऑफ मोर देन 6 months that person has stayed outside of India, then you are counted as an NRI, that is a non-resident Indian. ठीक है, तो अभी जो existing provision है वो ये है कि the person can fly to the country, can come back, and then he can cast his vote. But the point is that it is very time consuming, plus it is not cost effective. People really do not want to incur that kind of cost just to fly down to India to cast a vote, right? So what the Chief Election Commissioner has said, that we can maybe come up with something through which the person who is an NRI can cast their vote through the electronically transmitted postal ballot system. अब ये क्या है, इसके बारे में देखते हैं, अभी इसको डिस्कस करेंगे कि एग्जैक्टली ये ETPBS है क्या चीज, और क्या ये अभी कहीं पे यूज हो रहा है हमारे कंट्री में, राइट? एंड NRIs को एक्सटेंड करने के लिए क्या चेंजेस की रिक्वायरमेंट होगी, राइट? सो लेट्स गेट स्टार्टेड. तो पहली चीज तो ये देखो कि जो ये सिस्टम है, राइट, दिस बेसिकली इन 2016 गवर्नमेंट ने क्या किया, द गवर्नमेंट अमेंडेड द कंडक्ट ऑफ इलेक्शन रूल्स to introduce the ETPBS for service voters. Service voter means any person who is outside his place, who outside his constituency, because he is a part of maybe the armed forces or the police forces or the CAPF, or for that matter any other such service which has made it obligatory for that person to stay outside of his constituency, or you can say because of which the person is forced to stay outside of his constituency, right? And even during in times of election, the person cannot physically come to his constituency and cast his vote, कि वो उस इलेक्शन के समय में भी अपनी कंस्टिट्यूएंसी में आके वोट नहीं डाल सकता. तो उसके लिए क्या एक प्रावधान किया गया 2016 में कि उसको एक ऑप्शन दी जाए कि वो पोस्टल बैलेट्स जो हैं उसके थ्रू वोट अपनी डाल सके, राइट? जितने भी आर्म्ड फोर्सेस के मेंबर्स हैं जनरली, या कह लो पैरामिलिट्री फोर्सेस हैं, वो अपनी कंस्टिट्यूएंसी में नहीं होते मोस्ट ऑफ द टाइम्स, या कह लो जनरली स्पीकिंग, राइट? तो उनके लिए दिस वाज ब्रॉट इन 2016, and in this postal ballots are sent electronically to the registered service voter. ठीक है, सर्विस वोटर का मतलब मैंने आपको बेसिकली समझा दिया. उसके बाद क्या है, जो भी ये सर्विस वोटर है, चाहे वो किसी भी फोर्स का मेंबर है ना, जो इंडियन है, दैट पर्सन कैन रजिस्टर देयर मैंडेट ऑन द बैलेट, मतलब कि अपनी वोट, एंड सेंड इट बैक वाया ऑर्डिनरी मेल. ठीक है, इस पोस्ट के साथ साथ दे विल ऑल्सो हैव अ डिक्लेरेशन फ्रॉम द रजिस्टर्ड सर्विस वोटर, एंड दिस डिक्लेरेशन विल बी कि हाँ भाई ये मेरा ही वोट है, अपना साथ में उसमें वो अटैच करके भेज देंगे, राइट। नाउ दैट विल कंप्लीट द प्रोसेस, या कह लो कि दैट इज हाउ दे कैन कास्ट देयर वोट। अब बात आती है कि ये इफेक्टिव कितना है। ये इफेक्टिव इतना है कि 2019 के जो 2019 जनरल इलेक्शंस थे, 2019 लोकसभा इलेक्शंस, that saw almost 1 lakh such service voters casting their vote, right? सूर्यवीर से नो नॉट कॉमन पीपल। देखो ऐसे नहीं है कि आप कोई भी कहीं पे भी हो और आपको ये ऑप्शन मिल जाए, राइट। देयर हैज टू बी ए प्रोविजन इन द इलेक्शन कॉन्डक्ट रूल्स, राइट। हाँ जी, गुड आफ्टरनून वंदना सिंह, right. Sukhmeet Singh, there has to be a provision in the election conduct rules, only then you can cast your vote through ETPBS, right? Okay. लेकिन अभी जो सर्विस रजिस्टर्ड सर्विस वोटर्स की बात कर रहे हैं, वी आर टॉकिंग अबाउट द रजिस्टर्ड सर्विस वोटर्स हु वर अलाउड इन 2016, and that is why it led to almost 1 lakh service voters casting their vote in the 2019 Lok Sabha election through the ETPBS, right? Okay. Now that is the first point as far as the effectiveness is concerned. Apart from that, if we talk about international examples, then the International Institute for Democracy and Electoral Assistance, it says that every individual has a right to cast his or her vote, right? Now, since because of job compulsions, or you can say for better future prospects, or maybe because of the increased globalization, that people are traveling to other countries, they are working in other countries, maybe for short term, maybe for a couple of months, or for a period of time, still they must not be deprived of their right to vote. So that is why the International Institute for Democracy and Electoral Assistance, which is an intergovernmental institute, it says that it has recognized that this ETPBS must be allowed, and it is a means to allow these overseas citizens to exercise their right to vote, ठीक है। तो इन लोगों ने भी, they have also, this institute has also recognized the significance, we can say, which is attached with the ETPBS, right? So a similar system can be contemplated for NRI voters. That is what the point is right now, and that is why this particular system is being discussed, right? फिर इसके साथ साथ देखो, क्या सरकार ने कुछ पहले इसमें अटेम्प्ट्स किए हैं एनआरआईज को ये प्रोविजन एक्सटेंड करने के लिए? यस, देयर हैव बीन अटेम्प्ट्स मेड बाय द गवर्नमेंट इन प्रीवियस ईयर्स आल्सो टू इंक्लूड और टू एक्सटेंड द ईटीपीबीएस प्रोविजन फॉर एनआरआई वोटर्स। 2017 में सरकार एक बिल लेके आने की बात कर रही थी, जिसमें हम रिप्रेजेंटेशन ऑफ पीपल्स एक्ट को अमेंड करने के लिए दिस बिल वाज इंट्रोड्यूस्ड। It sought to amend section 20A of the Representation of People Act. अब ये section 20A क्या है? So it is mentioned here in front of you, which says that, ये कह लो जिसकी वजह से it is obligatory for the person to be physically present in his or her constituency if he or she wants to cast his vote, right? But the government said it is introducing this bill back in 2017 to change this provision, not making it mandatory for the person to be physically present to cast their vote, right? Although the bill was introduced and it was passed also, and it provided that for overseas voters they can appoint a proxy. For example, मान लो I am in USA, I am an NRI, लेकिन I tell the election commission that my friend or my relative or my brother, I am appointing him or her as my proxy, and on my behalf he or she will be going and casting their vote. That is what this bill wanted to do. So it provided for these conditions to be laid out in the Conduct of Election Rules 1961 also. But what happened that with the lapse of the, or with the dissolution of the 16th Lok Sabha, this bill got lapsed. ये bill जो है खत्म हो गया, and it did not become an act, ठीक है। तो ये अमेंडमेंट जो है वो नोटिफाई, या कह लो दिस अमेंडमेंट डिड नॉट सी द लाइट ऑफ द डे, इट कुड नॉट कम टू फ्रक्टिफिकेशन, राइट। सो ये तो जो अटेम्प्ट था सरकार का वहीं पे खत्म हो गया। लेकिन इसके बाद क्या हुआ कि इलेक्शन कमीशन, चुनाव करवाने की जिम्मेदारी किसके ऊपर है? चुनाव आयोग के ऊपर, दैट इज द इलेक्शन कमीशन। तो इलेक्शन कमीशन जो है उसके बाद इट केम इनटू द पिक्चर, या कह लो कि इट बिकेम एक्टिव एंड इट अर्ज द गवर्नमेंट, सरकार को इन्होंने कहा कि आप कुछ ना कुछ ऐसा करो जिसकी वजह से NRIs ऑल्सो गेट द परमिशन, दे गेट द परमिट टू कास्ट देयर वोट। ठीक है, और इसके चलते इन्होंने ये कहा, किसने, इलेक्शन कमीशन ने। देखो अगर मान लो आपसे मेंस में पूछा जाता है कि इलेक्शन कमीशन का क्या स्टैंड रहा है, या व्हाट इज द ओपिनियन ऑफ द इलेक्शन कमीशन, then you have to say that yes, the election commission is in favor of extending the ETPBS system to the NRIs, right? So they approached the government and they asked the government that this provision be extended to the NRIs also. ठीक है, या कह लो कि similar कोई provision, a similar kind of provision be made functional for the NRIs, just like the electronically transmitted postal ballot system जिसकी हम बात कर रहे हैं, ETPBS, राइट, विच इज ऑलरेडी यूज्ड बाय सर्विस वोटर्स, जो हमने ऑलरेडी डिस्कस किया है, राइट, विच फॉल अंडर दीज एक्ट्स, जैसे कि एनी आर्म्ड फोर्सेस ऑफ द यूनियन और द आर्मी एक्ट 1950, राइट। सो ECI का क्या स्टैंड था, इलेक्शन कमीशन सेड दैट यू कैन एक्सटेंड ईदर द ETPBS और मे बी अ सिमिलर काइंड ऑफ सिस्टम विच इज जस्ट लाइक द ETPBS फॉर द NRI वोटर्स। ठीक है जी, ऑल राइट, आई बिलीव इतनी बात क्लियर है। अब देखो इसके बाद क्या हुआ कि फर्दर कुछ चेंजेस की जरूरत पड़ेगी, क्योंकि देखो जो वो बिल लेके आई थी सरकार वो तो लैप्स हो गया, दैट बिल जस्ट बिकेम डेड विद द डिसोल्यूशन ऑफ द प्रीवियस लोकसभा। Now the question arises that if the election commission is saying, or the chief election commissioner himself has said that we are contemplating bringing in some similar kind of provision like the ETPBS for NRIs, then what will be the changes which have to be made? कि कुछ कानून में भी तो बदलाव करने पड़ेंगे, तो उसमें सबसे पहले तो देखो it will be the Ministry of Law and Justice, or you can simply say the Law Ministry. It will have to amend the Conduct of Election Rules 1961. Because we have seen that otherwise you cannot allow the person to cast their vote without being physically present in their constituency, right? Then what has to be done is that the NRI voters जो वोट डालना चाहते हैं, those who want to cast their vote, they through this ETPBS or a similar kind of system, whatever is put in place, they will have to inform the returning officer. जैसे ही उनकी कंस्टिट्यूएंसी में या उनकी स्टेट में, या कह लो अगर जनरल इलेक्शंस हैं, तो द इलेक्शंस गेट नोटिफाइड, द डेट इज अनाउंस्ड, सो एटलीस्ट 5 days बिफोर दैट they have to notify, they have to inform the returning officer that they are willing to vote through the ETPBS system, right? इसके बाद जो भी वहां पे रिटर्निंग ऑफिसर होंगे, that returning officer will basically send the ballot electronically to that particular NRI who has showed his or her interest. ठीक है, ETPBS के थ्रू उनको वो बैलेट भेज दिया जाएगा. Now the NRI voter can then register his or her vote on the ballot printout and send it back with an attested declaration. जैसी attested declaration अभी हम बात कर रहे थे सर्विस वोटर के कंटेक्स्ट में, that they also attach a declaration. A similar kind of declaration will be attached by the NRI voter. हालांकि ये अभी क्लियर नहीं है कि इलेक्शन कमीशन क्या चाहता है, या कह लो किस तरीके से ये जो वापस आएगा, जो ये बैलेट प्रिंट आउट है, ये क्या इलेक्ट्रॉनिकली वापस आएगा या फिर पोस्टल बैलेट के थ्रू वापस आएगा. दैट सर्टेनली इज स्टिल not very much clear that whether that will be coming back in an electronic form or in a physical form. That remains to be seen, right? But this is how, these are the broad changes which are required for enabling NRI voting. ठीक है जी, आपको अगर NRI को वोट करवाने के लिए enable करवाना, then these are a must. Apart from that, now what next? तो देखो सिंपल सी बात है, we all know that this postal ballot mechanism, it can serve or it can be an effective tool, for getting the ballots of these from these NRIs. And certainly you need an effective postal system to ease out this process. But there are certain ifs and buts. And what are those ifs and buts? That you need to have proper authentication of the ballot. कि ये ना हो कि जो आपका free and fair elections की बात हम करते हैं, ये जो free and fair elections हैं, अगर इसमें कुछ किसी भी तरीके से कॉम्प्रोमाइज होता है, if there is any misuse of the system, then certainly it will lead to dilution of this free and fair elections, and any such dilution will lead to a dilution of democracy. Why? Because democracy rests on this premise of free and fair electoral processes in the country. ठीक है, तो पहली बात तो आ गई किस चीज की, प्रॉपर ऑथेंटिकेशन की. दूसरी बात आ गई इसके साथ दैट द रूल्स मस्ट बी डिफाइंड क्लियरली, दे शुड बी फ्रेम्ड क्लियरली फॉर द एलिजिबिलिटी ऑन द बेसिस ऑफ द टाइम स्पेंट अवे फ्रॉम द कंट्री. के इंडिया से बाहर if any person is staying out of India, for how much time the person is permitted that he will be allowed to cast his vote, या फिर उसको वापस फिजिकली आना पड़ेगा इंडिया कितने टाइम के बाद, and only then he or she will be allowed to vote. So all these things the government will have to do, the government along certainly with the law ministry and the election commission of India. ठीक है, सरकार, election commission of India and certainly the legal luminaries in the country which can lend their opinion. ठीक है, तो ये सारा कुछ जो है मिला के हमें ये सुनिश्चित करना पड़ेगा, we'll have to ensure all these things that there is a proper authentication process which is defined, there are rules which are clearly defined, which are clearly laid down and also publicized, and there is no scope left whatsoever for anything that dilutes or compromises upon the free and fair conduct of elections in the country, right? Because that will be leading to, or that will be tantamount to diluting democracy, right? So that is what can be the way forward. So I believe that is clear to all of you. Yes, now I am throwing open the dice to you for any kinds of doubts. हाँ जी, एक बच्चे का डाउट था which I said I'll address at the end. So let me just go through the comments. Please hold your horses. Yes, Rushi, these will continue after the prelims also. And Lakshmi, I'll certainly send the PDF. Ame said, good afternoon, sir. I'm in my final year and I wish to start my preparation targeting 2023. Please help me with the planning my year and guide me to start it. Ame, we are conducting, webinars. So I would suggest that this is not the right platform for me to guide you regarding the strategy. I would request you to enroll for the webinar, and there in detail we take care of, guiding you through the strategy. So that will be the right forum. Yes, Ame Patil, are you there? Ame Patil, if you are there, then please, keep a tab on the notifications. We regularly conduct, we keep conducting such kind of webinars which are for people who are just beginning their preparation or those who plan to begin their preparation, and those are, solely dedicated to guiding you with that kind of strategy only. Yes, Ame, if you are there, please give me a thumbs up. And the rest of you, conclusion and way forward. Miracle Lakshman, look, yes, you will get those updates on Telegram. Certainly you will get those updates on the Telegram channel. If you have not joined the Telegram channel, then please take a look at the link, take a look at the description box of this video. You'll get a link to the Telegram channel. And Miracle Lakshman, conclusion and way forward and challenges, how to overcome them. Look, the point is that still the election commission has said that they are contemplating bringing in a system similar to ETPBS. They have not brought a system. So we'll have to wait and hold ourselves until they bring in a system and they tell us about the system, what exactly is the system which they have come up with. Only then we can say that, what are the shortcomings in that, right? It is still in the contemplation stage, right? All right. So Ame says, thank you to you too for coming live and being a part of this session. Miracle Lakshman, is it clear? Chaliye, theek hai. So on that count, it's a wrap from my side. Thank you so much. Kritika. Yes, certainly, Yojana, Kurukshetra, Down to Earth, all these magazines are very much important. You have to go through them. Certainly, they add, they add to your respective subjects. All right. So it's a wrap on that count from my side. Thank you so much. I'll see you again Monday next week with another set of topics concerning polity and governance. But tomorrow it will be Anurag sir. Catch him live at 2:30 to get clarity for current affairs for Indian economy. Right. So all of you out there, study well, stay safe, Jai Hind and bye-bye.